Yo, I'm Matt,
And I'm Joel,
and we're FringeCraft. Before we get started, I'm just going to ask if you'd please like and subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. Today we're going to be watching a conspiracy classic, and this is a video by Corbett Report, and it's called 9/11: A Conspiracy Theory.
Who'd ever think of that?
Who? And so we're going to first point out something that I found really interesting about maybe not the video itself, but just something around the video related. And that's the fact that when you want to find this video, you can't just search YouTube and say type in the exact title. In fact, if you look up the exact title, you'll notice that it's not there. Like, we think it's a controlled search or something to that nature, and there are certain other conspiracies and related topics that also demonstrate this behavior. 9/11 is a good example of that. You'll notice that, like, this has 991,000 views, this has 88,000, 501,000, 130,000, 1.8 million, 92, 40, 22. Like, none of these, up until this one here, none of them have the amount of views that this Corbett video has.
Also, with the exact title.
Yeah, with the exact title. And when, additionally, there's 51,000 likes to 2,000 dislikes, which is like, I mean, that's a pretty high ratio of likes to dislikes.
First or second result. You'd think it'd be the first result since you're typing the exact name.
Literally the title. But
it doesn't even show up at all, right?
Yeah. So if you want to find it, we'll link it specifically in the video. Additionally, you can go to Corbett, and I believe if you search through his videos that you can find it. And, you know, he does a good job of covering lots of different topics, which you might say are conspiratorial. So I'm noticing the volcano blowing up down at the bottom there.
Fuego.
Enjoy the show.
In Guatemala.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to get started watching the video. We're going to watch it from VLC. So let's get into it, and let's watch 9/11: A Conspiracy Theory. I guess. There we go. All right, here we go.
On the morning of September 11, 2001, 19 men armed with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave fortress halfway around the world using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world, overpowering the passengers and the military combat-trained pilots on 4 commercial aircraft before flying those planes wildly off course for over an hour without being molested by a single fighter interceptor. These 19 hijackers, devout religious fundamentalists who like to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York, while in Washington, a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon in the Budget Analyst Office, where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before, on September 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
That a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
But for some reason, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists demanded an investigation into the greatest attack on American soil in history. That investigation was delayed, underfunded, set up to fail, a conflict of interest, and a cover-up from start to finish. It was based on testimony extracted through torture, the records of which were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-Tech, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening. It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration, and as for Bush and Cheney, well, no one knows what they told it because they testified in secret, off the record, not under oath, and behind closed doors. It didn't bother to look at who funded the attacks because that question is ultimately of little practical significance. Still, the 9/11 Commission did brilliantly answering all of the questions the public had, except most of the victims' family members' questions, and pinned blame on all the people responsible, although no one so much as lost their job, determining the attacks were
failure of imagination.
Because
Nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
except the Pentagon, FEMA, NORAD, and the NRO. The DIA destroyed 2.5 terabytes of data on Able Danger, but that's okay because it probably wasn't important. The SEC destroyed their records on the investigation into the insider trading before the attacks, but that's okay because destroying the records of the largest investigation in SEC history is just part of routine record keeping. NIST has classified the data that they used for their model of WTC-7's collapse, but that's okay because knowing how they made their model of the collapse would jeopardize public safety. The FBI has argued that all material related to their investigation of 9/11 should be kept secret from the public, but that's okay because the FBI probably has nothing to hide. This man never existed, nor is anything he had to say worthy of your attention, and if you say otherwise, you are a paranoid conspiracy theorist and deserve to be shunned by all of humanity. Likewise him, and her. And her, and him. Osama bin Laden lived in a cave fortress in the hills of Afghanistan, but somehow got away. Then he was hiding out in Tora Bora, but somehow got away. Then he lived in Abbottabad for years, taunting the most comprehensive intelligence dragnet employing the most sophisticated technology in the history of the world for a decade, releasing video after video with complete impunity and getting younger and younger as he did so, before finally being found in a daring SEAL team raid which wasn't recorded on video, in which he didn't resist or use his wife as a human shield, and in which these crack special forces operatives panicked and killed this unarmed man, supposedly the best source of intelligence about those dastardly terrorists on the entire planet. Then they dumped his body in the ocean before telling anyone about it. Then a couple dozen of that team's members died in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. This is the story of 9/11, brought to you by the media which told you the hard truths about
his head could be seen to move violently forward.
And
they took the babies out of the incubators.
And
mobile production facilities.
And
the rescue of Jessica Lynch.
If you have any questions about this story, you are a batshit paranoid tinfoil dog-abusing baby hater and will be reviled by everyone. If you love your country and or freedom, happiness, rainbows, rock and roll, puppy dogs, apple pie, and your grandma, you will never ever express doubts about any part of this story to anyone. Ever. This has been a public service announcement by the Friends of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, SEC, MSM, White House, NIST, and the 9/11 Commission. Because ignorance is strength.
Drill things in a little overly hard by the end, but I mean, yeah, that all happened.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, the way he says it is just, it's not a way, like it's facts,
yeah,
but it's not a way that you'd hear in the news, like a newscaster say.
That is their frame, though. I mean, that is what they want, like, that is what they want you to believe on the news.
Yeah.
What he said at the first 2 minutes of the video, where it's just like, yeah, this is what happened.
Directly an outline of this scenario.
They flew the plane in a 270-degree, 8,000-foot descent and hit the Pentagon. That's insanely hard, by the way.
Corkscrew.
Yeah.
Pattern, like
I was just watching the, gun kata trials for the, dogfighting fighter jet, and they were saying, like, that's, like, the lower you get, the harder and harder it gets to control the descents, because, like, the pressure is changing and all that stuff. And the other thing is they, like, never recovered the fuselage of the, like, plane that struck the Pentagon. To me, that's the most bizarre aspect of the whole thing, is the Pentagon thing, where there's no video, no fuselage, there's just no evidence of it. It's just it's a stated fact.
There's like lots of things that we could probably go through the video like one by one. It would take, I bet, like an hour to just go through every interesting tidbit that like gets brought up in the video. But I mean, there's plenty of things that I think are striking, like the passport being found like blocks away from, like, one of the guy's passports is found blocks away from the 9/11 like World Trade Center crash site, and like
It's so convenient.
when he says it's failure of imagination, and like nobody in the previous administration could have thought of flying planes into things. It's like, I think literally in Operation Northwoods, like that was one of the things suggested. But additionally, like it was in a show. Like it was literally in like The Lone Gunman.
Yeah,
like-
remind me again, when was Operation Northwoods?
Like in the
planned?
60s, I think, or 50s. It was around when JFK was in office because he had to veto it. I mean, he said no to it. I don't know if he officially vetoed it, but
Okay.
and it was brought to him by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So like it was a seriously thought out.
There's some evil fucking people.
Yeah, and like when you look at it, it's like it's not that hard to imagine, and when the fact that it appears to be something that like is referenced even prior in like pop culture things like
Oh, The Simpsons and stuff.
The Simpsons, but additionally, like I brought up The Lone Gunman. It's like literally the episode is they're gonna fly a plane into the
Well, it's
World
not
Trade Center.
That, I mean, it is a crazy idea in the sense of like who would do it, but like it's not that far beyond the imagination. you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
Like,
But so their failure of imagination just seems really like it's just a lie. Like there's no way that that couldn't have been foreseen. And additionally, like think about what happened afterwards, like the Patriot Act. We went to war with Afghanistan or in Afghanistan, and when you look at like the fact that it was 16 Saudis, and Osama bin Laden is a hyper wealthy Saudi. It's like, wait, why are we going to Afghanistan? Like, I understand that they might have had training camps there, or the Taliban is there, but like,
Opportunity,
why
yeah.
are we going to like, other than for the reasons that most people oil, like there's rare earths in Afghanistan actually, but like that we wanted to position ourselves in the Middle East so that we could eventually get the oil from Iraq, which, like
yeah,
we
it's
had,
not even we. It's like whoever's on the 9/11
Yeah.
commission, that
Yeah.
that foreign policy commission, that all neocons,
yeah, and
which
when you look at like I don't, a lot of the time when it's brought up as a conspiracy theory, you hear people say like, oh, there was thermite in the towers, and it was remote controlled planes, and they come up with all these intricate plans, but I think that it's just as powerful of a conspiracy theory if there was just foreknowledge that this event was going to take place, and they used it in a way to go to, again, 16 Saudis, 17 I suppose with Osama, like they
yeah, I mean, some of the ways I look at it too is like, even okay. So first off, I do think there was planning to it, right? But crises are used opportunistically by everyone. So even if it's like, well, they just allow it to happen. They don't necessarily like. Did Bush orchestrate it or not? I have no idea. I kind of doubt it. He might have just like let it happen in order to use the crisis for, his ends
or
his puppet masters.
exactly.
Ends.
I was about to say, like, I don't, a lot of people seem to think that like Rumsfeld and Cheney were actually pulling the strings, and like Bush was just kind of like a figurehead that could have gotten them into the authority position because his dad had already been there. So it's almost like being a legacy at college. Like he gets a shot at being the president just like his dad. And
Yeah, he gets a free card in.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, it's definitely, there's so much fishy stuff, and like the thermite thing, like was there thermite in there or not? I've watched videos analyzing it, which is like it's plausible, but I feel like he didn't even mention this in the video, but the jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. You remember that saying?
That's a meme.
Yeah, well, we're probably gonna get our video blacklisted just because we said the phrase, but That's like the rain weathering on the Sphinx, like equivalent for 9/11, because it doesn't. I mean, the meaning of it is like, well, there was melted steel, like molten steel was observed there. So where did it come from? If
I think part of the idea with like you can heat steel, and when it's heated, it doesn't have the same kind of strength, so it could collapse on itself. But I mean,
but how did it become molten? Like, why was there molten steel there though? Like I'm not saying the World Trade Center like melted. I know that it collapsed because the steel weakened, but there was observed molten steel. That's what I'm saying.
I'm
like,
unsure.
There's video evidence.
I do know that when they say like 2 planes took down 3 buildings, like that. I mean, it is strange that like how did this building catch on fire and then fall down, like World Trade Center 7, and the fact that they were saying NIST didn't. Corbett says NIST didn't release the data from their review. Like, I mean, for public safety reasons, I mean, what could possibly be the reason, like actual reasoning? Because that's such a bad excuse to not release the data for how you ran your study.
I mean, I don't know that we'll ever get the truth about 9/11, but what the stuff the media says has so many. I mean, there's clear lies in it.
Yeah.
And some of it might might be details or might not be details, but the point is they state it as fact, and if they know it's they don't know for sure it's true, then it shouldn't be stated that way.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I think this is so important is it changed the dynamic in the world to where it became a war on terror. Not just Islamist terror, though. I mean, for a long time that's been the main kind of focus, but like to this never-ending war on terror, like the idea that terror is now the enemy, and that's who we have to be gearing up to fight and be spending our resources to fight and actively using intelligence to.
The Patriot Act.
Yeah, like without this, the Patriot Act wouldn't have passed. Like, what happened to that 2.3 trillion that was found? I think I looked it up, and 2.3 trillion in 2000, just adjusted for inflation, is like 3.3 trillion now, or 3 point something trillion.
Nice.
So I mean,
so
bigger than the COVID funding bills that have recently passed. Like, that's a lot of money to just be missing or unaccounted for.
A lot of people probably don't know this, but like who are younger, but TSA, the airport security, used to not even exist. You could just walk onto the plane.
Yeah.
Like, you just scanned your pass and walked on the plane. It wasn't even, like, no one even thought anything like, oh, it's unsafe.
Yeah. And, like, I think they've spent a lot on TSA, and I don't necessarily believe that TSA has prevented that many further attacks. I mean,
Dude,
I do
I've
think
accidentally brought worse than box cutters on planes.
Yeah.
Let me say that. Like, and supposedly the planes were hijacked using plastic box cutters or is it plastic? Basically,
box cutters, like
a razor blade.
Yeah, like X-Acto knives, essentially, like razor blades attached to like plastic things.
Which, like, I mean, a plane probably has 100 people in it.
Well, I think prior to that, there had been other like Islamic extremists or extremists that like would take a plane and then fly it somewhere else to make some kind of prove some kind of point or make a political statement or something, but there hadn't been a crashing the plane into a civilian target on purpose moment until that point, and then that was the like impetus to change, like that would have been one of the reasons, first of all, why you didn't see a bunch of like all the planes have their passengers just attack the people, because they might not have thought they were going to die. They might not have thought that these people were going to do this.
So better just, sit tight.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a hero.
Exactly. Whereas, Flight 93, supposedly that was what they did, is that someone was like, we need to fight these guys, and so they fought them, and then they took the plane down or something, which, who exactly knows? I mean, they could have been, I guess, remote control planes. We don't I just think it's a very, like, the idea of 9/11 and conspiracy theory, they're pretty synonymous. I think that there's more to the story than the official story for sure, and I think it's worthy of being looked into, that it should be remembered, like, maintained. I do think people died that day, and that it's a tragedy, and that the way it changed America was not for the better, that it made, other than it brought Americans together, but it changed our lives in such a way that, you know.
Yeah, the relationship with government, or even like the sense of like paranoia, like if you went through if you went to your flight terminal without passing through airport security now, like 20 years later, you'd probably be like, this is so unsafe, I can't believe they're doing this, what if someone was, you know what I mean? And whereas before 9/11, no one had thoughts like that. Like, that it was virtually unthinkable, you know? It's like how people used to leave their doors unlocked in the 60s and stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's like it's a totally different paradigm where it's like everyone's out to get me, kind of, you know, paranoia. It's inflicted paranoia that is still not left our collective consciousness, like, as a culture or society. And I mean, from the looks of it, you know, the powers that be will never have that. You know, they're gonna make the zeitgeist get more and more paranoid until it explodes, or what? I don't know what the.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's kind of like, you know, rat your neighbors out if you think they went out with COVID, or, you know, whatever. It's
they
like
have 5 guests over.
Yeah, I mean,
now it's if they go to a Donald Trump rally, rat them out.
Yeah, like it's become like you're worried about extremism from everybody. Like I was saying, where it's like it became a global war on terror, and I think the idea is that at any time it can switch from Islamic to, you know, domestic terrorism as like the main target, or just the idea of terrorism in general. The idea that it's like they're looking at like with what Snowden revealed.
Is it a word?
John the Revelator. Anyway,
okay.
Like that was revealed was that, you know, they're gathering metadata on everybody and using it.
At this point, they're probably gathering the entire conversations.
Yeah.
Snowden was 2013.
Yeah.
Think about how far data technology has gone. They probably don't, like, they probably store, like, the equivalent of, like, a zipped file of your voice.
Who knows? Because while the Snowden stuff was ruled illegal, the government really can do, if they can get away with it, they can do what they want, even if it's illegal. And like, if it's not done in the light of day, and like, you know, I don't think that's healthy for the United States to be like that, but that's what it's become.
Yeah, there's no method to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, I don't know. And I mean, if you don't believe in conspiracy theories at all, which, I mean, I don't know that we'd get any viewers that don't, just the mere fact that YouTube won't show this video when you type the name directly into the search bar, and it has more views than the videos that it does give you, should tell you all you need to know. That I mean, that was consciously determined by the, you know, whoever set the search algorithm.
There was a time when YouTube was very much used. I would say probably a significant portion of YouTube was conspiracy videos, like, actually. And there was something called the adpocalypse, where videos were being advertised on, like, advertisers realized their like what they were paying money to put their ads in front of might not be something that they want to be connected to, and then basically started pulling off the service. And then YouTube realized, like, we have to some degree, demonetize and censor certain, maybe not censor directly, but, like, you know, you can't have a monetized channel that is like that's conspiracy related. Like, Maybe you can, but it's hard because when you bring up, even saying certain words will get you demonetized. I'm pretty sure terrorism is one of them.
Or jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Like that'll...
Yeah, something like that.
That'll pull you off the revenue stream.
But I just thought, I thought it was really important that we look at 9/11. I saw this video, like it popped back up in my, I forget, I think I just looked up through my history, 9/11, and this was one of the videos that came up.
20 years ago at this point. That's what's nuts.
Yeah, and this video itself is 10 years old.
It's like COVID. Like, we're never going to stop wearing the mask. I mean...
We might, I don't know.
Even if you get the vaccine, you still have to wear it. I mean...
We'll see what happens. We might turn into Japan where everybody wears a mask. But they kind of wear a mask out of courtesy, so...
Pretty soon the FBI is going to kick down the door during a FringeCraft because we're not wearing masks in your house.
I mean, it almost seems like it's where it's headed. But, alright, well, I guess that's it for this video.
Yeah, like and subscribe for sure, don't forget.
Yeah, that helps us out a lot, and, we want to build a community where we can discuss these ideas in a fun way because, like, first of all, it gets somewhat depressing, like, just thinking everything is a conspiracy all the time.
Hey, everything is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
There's no coincidences.
But if you have a group of people who are, who you like that are talking about it, who can discuss it in mature ways, it definitely helps.
Yeah, leave a comment.
Yeah, leave comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about 9/11. Can jet fuel melt steel beams?
Have to test
let
it
us
out in the
let
lab.
us know what you think. And yeah, that's it. I've been Matt.
I'm Joel.
And we're FringeCraft.
FringeCraft.
Later.